gives? Why would you leave me all alone while I'd cry? Cause the love was never shown and I'd die, slowly fade away to black. No, I'll never get it back. No, I'll never get it back.
Mezii, the player who is probably the most surprising pickup of the team, especially for NA fans.
Obviously a little bit controversial, this one.
Mezii was brought into the team to be a more supportive player. On his previous team, Gabriel Legion, he played in more fragger spots, but in this team, he was going to be put in the supportive role.
But a great all-rounder, technically our support player, and he's going to blow your minds. He's going to show you how good he is in the server.
He would buy utility on pistol rounds and be the last one into the site. Once the team made their first roster change though, bringing in Zeppa for Woxic, he actually transitioned into a more natural role for him in the fragger spots. He thrived once this switch happened and started really hitting his form. He played main anchor roles for the most part on Cloud9, such as A-side on Nuke or Pit on Inferno. Mezii has some of the best crosshair placement and movement I have ever seen. If you are looking to get better, watch Mezii demos and see how he moves around the map, always making sure he has to move his mouse as little as possible. And this helps him have great aim. He always looks smooth when he's snapping. He's a fantastic clutcher, and the team purposely put him in these situations, and he constantly thrived. and he has great patience, playing around utility and consistently multi-fragging. In his first couple events, he did seem to start off a little antsy or a little unsure of how to play in his new role, and he didn't look like the typical Mezii demos I had seen on Gamer Legion. But after a few events, especially after the roster move, he looked much more like himself. Back with his calm demeanor, clutching, holding down every site, and showing that he belonged on a top 20 team. I think Cloud9 losing Mezii is going to be a huge mistake, because I think Mezii's ceiling is so high. I legitimately think he has the talent to be in the HLTV top 20. I got a chance to actually sit down with Mezii and talk to him all about his time on Cloud9, the team, and himself. So here's that interview coming up right now. So I'm joined here by Mezii, and Mezii, when you were first brought in, you were touted as being like a support, and that's kind of what it seemed like you were going to be brought in as. But when you played with Gamer Legion, it was more of a fragger, or you were in more like fragger spots. So how was that transition going from like being more of a fragger to potentially being more of a support on Cloud9?
To be honest, obviously it was quite a big difference. Going from Game Legion, where I was playing with Adam, who I'd played in previous teams with, so I got kind of a lot of spots and positions I kind of wanted. Wherever I wanted, he kind of gave them to me. And going into Cloud9, obviously, as a rookie, I'm not going to go in there get in every single spot I kind of want, but also that's also a good learning experience as a player. And I think in the end, it was great for me to be able to go into those support roles and learn different positions on maps that I hadn't played before. So I think overall it was kind of good for me to have that, because it kind of made me into more of a complete player instead of going in there getting only the roles I wanted. And obviously that would look great statistically for me, but also as a player, I kind of wanted that to be able to learn from all the different players and learn from the different roles and see what I could get the most out of it.
Yeah. Were you more comfortable once the first roster change happened and Zeppa was brought in? Because it seemed like you ended up in more of like a fragger role. Were you more comfortable in a new role, or was that kind of just more as time has gone on, you had gotten more comfortable?
I think it was probably a bit of both. Over time, I definitely got more comfortable. In terms of like CT side positions, like say Inferno on Pit, UK. Like there was a lot of positions that I'd never played before, so at the start it was quite rough. So I was just kind of learning those positions. Over time, I got more comfortable. So CT side was never really a problem. Like as time went on with the roster change or not, I kind of got more comfortable, whatever happened. And then on T side, it was just me adapting to. I had a few new spots, but also I was kind of more in the pack. Like whereas in Gamer Legion, I kind of had positions where I kind of decided what I wanted to do. Most times I was kind of lurking or on the other side, and then if not, I was more like the third guy in, or maybe throwing a few flashes and then trading, which was obviously statistically you're gonna turn out better there because you're not having to go in first
Hmm.
guy. But I think going into Cloud9 with the roster change, and even before the roster change, I was still doing a few more entry roles on a lot of on a lot of strats, and even defaults. I think I was taking a few more risks than I would normally in past teams. So I think it took time to get used to it. But I think obviously, unfortunately, towards the end, it didn't go well. But I think as time went on, I was getting more comfortable in my T side roles and um, kind of fitting into the system that Alex had, and just getting used to that. I think as time went on, it was getting a bit better.
Oh, yeah. So how was it adjusting to Alex's like? So his system is like very feel based, it seems. Where so the old Cloud9 was like very execute based, and then the system Alex brought in was very like feel, like Alex lurking, even kind of running like a 1-3-1 sometimes with like floppy kind of holding down another side too. How was it like adjusting to like a whole new feel based system while also trying to just learn how to play with four other brand new people?
To be honest, it wasn't too bad. It was like going from Game Legion where, to be honest, we had quite a lot of strats to play off. But it's still kind of like a defaulty kind of style as well, where where I kind of could do my own thing. The only difference here was, like I said, I was playing more with the team in these like default rounds that Alex was kind of calling, just which was a good thing for us because we kind of could do whatever we wanted within reason. Obviously, we weren't just going to run out and take all the risks, but also Alex was saying like if we want to do something, then just call it, and that's kind of how it was. And obviously, with a new team, that could be really messy. I think everyone saw that in a lot of games where there'll be quite a few mistakes or grenades weren't being thrown when they should have been. So I mean, like there was a lot of mistakes at the start, and I think like it was going to get a lot better. It felt like that in some rounds or some games it was all, like really like working well, and then obviously some it wasn't. Um, so I think at the start, getting used to all the new players, also playing at the tier one level is also really difficult because I think the difference there is the teams when they're preparing for games like really know how to exploit certain players. So like for me going to tier one CS, only having a handful of experiences, like they're going to find out like different things that I can do in tendencies. So like I think that was also a big thing is getting used to that style, and then also focusing on me switching up my game enough so the other team cannot like just prepare easily and just say, okay, just these two things and let's move on, basically. So it wasn't much of a problem getting used to that feel, that kind of loose style that Alex called, because it kind of suits my style where I can just kind of team up with someone maybe and just like take certain parts of the map and just see where it goes instead of having a real structured way of this strat is called this is this round and then this next round is this. It's kind of, I think it's a great way of playing that style. I think like today you see Gambit, then they're not really structured. They do a lot of defaults, and I think it's the best way to play CS, to be honest, because when you have all these strats, teams can just prepare this. They do this strat here, they do this strat, and then they can kind of set up
Mm.
around it instead of like a default where you could have a hundred different ways of ending or a way around my end.
Yeah, I really like the style that was played. It just seemed like, especially at the beginning, like you said, it seemed like the coordination just seemed off. But one thing I noticed is it felt like after every tournament where there was like a break where you had a week or two, it seemed like the next time you played a map, it was significantly better. So was there more to that other than just time together, or were you just having like a lot of like demo reviews, or is it just like extra scrims, or what kind of led to like a seeming like tournament to tournament growth?
I think it was just everything. Obviously, with especially me who had basically no experience. Floppy had some with the previous Cloud9. Zeppa had some experience in NA. So like kind of three of us who were don't have a ton of experience playing that style. Like I said,
Mhm.
is really obviously tough at the start because you're having to play a lot of on your own game. You have a lot of initiative. You have to have a lot of initiative. You're not having the IGL basically telling you exactly what to do, which obviously for some players that are inexperienced can help them a lot because they're having someone kind of micromanage their every move. So for us at the start, I think that's one reason why it was kind of rough. So going from tournament to tournament, we're gaining that experience, learning how each of us plays, so we can kind of have all these different ideas. Also, the demo reviews. I think we put a lot of work in each practice, just going over either our previous tournament or even the practice games we had, just going over each like round that could possibly come up in another
Mhm.
scenario, and just going over that. I think really helped us. So I think all the time like kind of spent on that really helped. And I think, as you said, just having more time together would well did help. I think going into even our final tournament, obviously it didn't go as planned, but yeah.
And so one thing I noticed when watching you, when I was watching some of your Gamer Legion demos before you even played a match on Cloud9, was just how smooth your aim is and how you're always holding your crosshair at like head level, and like say you're going past a door, like you're holding your crosshair at the opening where the enemy could come instead of kind of holding it on like the wall. And that was something that is actually not as common as like you'd think. And so is keeping your crosshair at these placements and keeping like it smooth and moving, is all that something that you purposely practice, or is that just kind of how you play the game?
I guess it's a bit of both. Like kind of watching. I think it was maybe when I first started playing CS. Maybe like Swag Brax. I'm sure I remember him like having some really crisp like pre-aim, and I think it's just something I always thought about. Just because when you're going into an aim draw, you kind of want to have like the best draw you can have. So if that, I know some players can have that flicky aim where they can just go around the corner kind of looking either at a wall or and just flick straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, um, it kind of just I kind of practiced that way of just going around the corner and always aiming where the player could come out of. So it's not like going around a corner looking at a wall. It's kind of tracing the corner to where the next
Right.
angle is going to be. And I think that comes from uh, obviously just trying to be as efficient as I could with my aim, and also a lot of pre-fire maps. I guess I always liked those,
Mm.
and you kind of just get used to it. But like I said, it's kind of just down to whatever the player likes doing. I know, as I said, a lot of players kind of have that snappy aim where they can kind of afford to um, maybe go around a corner not doing the like aiming completely where you need to. But for me, playing kind of a low sensitivity as well, I don't want to be going around the corner just flicking to a person.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, you were typically like a site anchor on Cloud9, such as like you talked about like Pit on Inferno or like A site on Nuke, and especially like Pit and stuff. Those positions can get very chaotic very fast as like teams are just completely executing on you. But you were one of the players on the team who I thought was very patient and very like reliable in all these positions, and did a really good job playing around the smokes and the utility and kind of just like keeping calm and collected. Is that kind of like just a personality trait, or have you just seen a bunch of those situations, or what do you think makes you good in those situations?
I guess I am pretty calm as a person. I guess kind of helps, but at the start it wasn't like for those positions it was really difficult. Like I said, I'd never played those positions, so I spent quite a lot of time watching demos and speaking to obviously the
Mm-hmm.
team on the best way to play certain scenarios. Because, like you said, it within a second, a person could be like in front of you, or like on Pit, there's like an apps pop or on Nuke,
Mm-hmm.
an execute comes in, and there's like one position you can stand in because everything's been modded. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work on demos and how I should play those positions because at the start I was focusing really heavily on like dropping my util before kind of taking angels, and sometimes you just have to take the angel instead of like focusing on staying alive all the time. So like on Inferno, I remember at the start I was more focused on dropping my smoke in pit before, like maybe getting the first kill and then dropping my smoke, and before you know it, like I said, you drop your smoke and someone's already killing you. So I think it was a lot of work at the start to kind of be more comfortable in that spot, but also I think I am quite a calm person, so even going from my past teams, like clutching was one of my stronger points. So I guess like going into those positions where you're going to be 1v1 or having to win a big round, like I kind of get the experience from that, being able to deal with those chaotic situations as well, I think.
Yeah, clutching was definitely something I noticed that you were very good at, and I think that Cloud9 did at least a good job of when you were playing more support, kind of coming in late and being able to clutch, or even then later on, kind of like a little bit like you saw in Gamer Legion, coming in third and kind of being just alive and around in those situations. So I definitely noticed that clutching was one of your strong points, even down to like the final MIBR map. I think you had like a couple clutches on that map on Overpass too.
Yeah,
Which that map was so insane.
yeah. I mean, unfortunate ending, but yeah, it's definitely something I always kind of work on as well. Like it's one of my stronger points being like kind of alive mid to late round. That's why I kind of try and play those positions like now and then point and game legion. I was kind of playing more of a lurk role or like you said, like third in, so I can kind of guarantee or at least try and stay in those late round situations where I feel even if I'm not in a 1v1 but in 2vx situations, I feel like um, I can kind of like direct those situations well with the teammate and play those well as well.
Yeah. So another thing Henry said when he brought you in was that you like know every single piece of utility. Using utility was something that I thought this lineup struggled with a lot, especially on executes. Throughout the roster's length of time, like using mid-round utility definitely got a lot better. But I think even till the end, even though it definitely got better, but even towards the end, I think using execute utility was poor. Was that something that you tried to help in, or is that something that you noticed as being part of the team?
To be honest, I think it kind of come with the style we were playing. So because it was kind of default based, there was a lot of times where we would have to react kind of fast onto a site or
Mm.
into a certain area. So I think that's one difference is where I think we've kind of worked on a lot as a team because we all knew the different util we had to throw. It was just about kind of calling, okay, say on Inferno, we know they're playing 3B at the moment. Let's react to A kind of fast. It was more right. I'm going to throw this smoke. I'm going to throw this flash. Let's go. Instead of like say we're just running up mid, and before we know it, we're running onto site, and no one's actually called. I'm throwing this smoke and throwing this flash, and it was kind of we made a big point at the start saying someone take responsibility and say right, I'm throwing this instead of just
Mm.
taking responsibility to run up and onto site. Like you said, those countless rounds where we'd maybe running up onto site with a flash, and we have like two smokes where we could have smoked off a different point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, like I said, that comes with the style we were playing. Instead of setting up for a full execute, a lot of teams would be doing. But when you're on a default base, you're kind of, like I said, reacting fast to information, and instead of thinking first what util we should be throwing. It's kind of thinking first, let's get into this site, which obviously, as I said, as time went on, we worked on it and tried to ensure we were going into a site with the right util and giving us the best chance of winning that round instead of going in with the bare minimum. So I think like we kind of worked on it and it got better towards the end, but it was definitely a problem
Mm-hmm.
on a lot of the maps, especially on Overpass. I think where we didn't throw enough util a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that that could have gotten better with more time? Like, just sorry, my cat. Do you think that it could have gotten better with time if there was just more? So it becomes more like subconscious rather than like having to be thinking as you're coming up. Like, okay, am I the one who's going to call out the smoke? And it just becomes like this more like hive mind where you just understand that, oh, I'm in the third spot. I'm throwing the garbage smoke or bank smoke or whatever.
Yeah, I think towards the end it kind of started to work like that. Obviously, there's some rounds where I think every team make mistakes. Like sometimes someone will forget to throw a flash when they should have been, or forget to throw a smoke. Like comparing it from the start to towards the end of the team, I think we definitely got better at it. Just because
Yeah.
it was a thing that we did kind of like address a lot in practice because it would happen then as well. So it was kind of saying like if you're running towards that spot, it doesn't matter if you were first or second or something. Just like as long as someone calls that they're going to do it, that instead of like two people lining up ready to line up the same smoke, or and then it just gets a
Mm.
mess as well. So I think just taking that responsibility within the team, no matter who it is, just say, okay, I'm smoking this, I'm flashing this, and then it becomes a lot easier because then you know exactly as an entry as well. Like if you're going up the site, you know what's going to be mollied, what's going to be smoked, and what's going to be flashed. So make their job easier as well.
Yeah. What do you think was the biggest issue that led to so many close losses?
To be honest, I think obviously experience was a big thing.
Hmm.
So when it got close, as a team, or when we were kind of ahead and we needed to close it out, obviously the experience, it can get kind of like chaotic in a lot of situations. So for us as players, like for me, and I guess Floppy and Zephyr as well, towards the end, it was obviously there was a lot of situations where you could say we should have won this, we should have won that, but also um, there was a lot of chaotic situations where you think you just make a split-second decision, which obviously would turn around the other way. When obviously just having that time and experience on how to play those scenarios all the time, then you just close out games. But also, I think but yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing is that experience. But also the changes. Like I think towards the end, after we made the roster change, we also had Alex Orpin for a little while. Then we had S-Tag Orpin. So I think
Hmm.
obviously the constant changes didn't help because then you
Yeah.
obviously talking role changes or positional changes on maps. So it's also getting used to one, we were getting used to playing with Zeppa. Then also you got to think we were getting used to people playing new spots. So it's like all these different times where you had a site partner that you knew exactly what was going to happen in a certain scenario. Now you've got someone else coming in. Obviously, you know how they
Yeah.
play, but also you want to know how they play those different situations. So I think when they come into those close round situations and chaotic situations, it's tough to react accordingly when you haven't played a ton with that person on a site, or for example.
Yeah. Yeah. Even after the S tag swap, I was trying to tell people like you need to look at this as like a brand new roster basically. Like it's hard to look at it as like the same 6 month project or whatever it was. And when you had like a new coach, you've now changed your opper twice. You got a new player in. It's like I think it's tough as a fan to like look at the whole thing and be like, oh, like they keep resetting, but also at the same time, like such a big change like that, you need to like look at it as like, okay, we're kind of hitting a reset button that hopefully we end up more forward, but
Yeah, I think especially with changing the role as like such as an AWPer as well, which is like one of the most important roles within a team,
yeah.
and one of the most impactful roles in a team. So I think it's not like we're changing a couple spots on a map where obviously comes with changing AWPer, because playing someone like S-Tag, who was playing some of the rotator roles, say on Overpass, is now going to the A AWP on Overpass, and now someone else has got to fill that role in. It kind of changes quite a lot when you're changing an AWP. It's not just changing a couple positions and then seeing how it goes. It's like a huge role within the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think with more time and just like more stability, like do you think the roster could have succeeded?
Most likely, yeah. I think like even in Pro League, we showed like some really good signs. I think with Navi, it was a really close series that we probably could have won.
Hmm.
Gambit, we took a map off them, and I won't say we should have won it, but it was still a close series. We took a map off Gambit, who were a great team. So that's like two of the best teams in our group that were really close. And then obviously we had to win some like the last three, let's say, and we beat Fury, which was like a great result. I think it wasn't really even close. And then Team One, we beat them, and I mean, the last game was unfortunate because we felt like we really should be beating MIBR at that stage, because I think we beat them at some CS Summit as well, and we were feeling pretty confident going into it. And obviously, in the end, it didn't go well. But I think we could see like some improvements within the team. Like we weren't just going into a game and like playing not to kind of lose. We were going there, we're trying to win, and I think it showed in a lot of the games where we were really close against some of the better teams in the tournament. So I think with more time, it definitely would have turned out to be something really good.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Mezii. I really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck at Endpoint. You're killing it over there. I hope your team does awesome, and I'm glad that you're staying and found somewhere else to go, and keep killing it over there. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you as well. Thanks for all the support. It's been it was great having someone like you in C9 as well. Like, you know, a lot of the comments aren't great when you're playing under Cloud9 and not winning, but thanks for all the support as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Mezii for taking the time to talk with me all about Cloud9 and the roster and everything. That was part 3 of Cloud9, a look back. Next week, part 4, we're taking a look at Floppy. If you have any questions for the Q&A, leave them below, and I'll see you next week.